show. Hello, hippies. I meant to write hello and wrote hole. Hole. Typey type in the chat room. All right, we got the Netflix stuff. You got any questions there, V?
Nope. Don't think so.
Netflix expects to sign up its 100 millionth subscriber this weekend.
Is it you?
Could it be you? Everyone starts canceling their Netflix subscription so they can sign up and be the 100. Yeah, it doesn't say they're giving them prizes or anything. Just
Yeah.
That's Netflix's way of trying to combat the fact that it missed expectations for subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gonna have a lot of Facebook news tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that they planned F8, the Facebook Developers Conference, to be the same week after the debut of Fate of the Furious?
I don't think so.
No? But you knew where I was going as soon as I started
Yes, because I already made that joke on Twitter.
I didn't see it. I wasn't trying to rip you off.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Credit Veronica Belmont. Yeah, 100 million opening weekend. I'm feeling pretty good in the movie draft.
Oh, good. Is that your pick?
It's one of them, yeah. I also have Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
And I had Smurfs, but I only paid $7 for it, so it wasn't that big of a deal. People are like, oh, Smurfs tanked. I'm like, yeah, but I also didn't pay a lot, so it's all right. It's all good. It did underperform.
What did?
Smurfs. But if Fate overperforms as much as it looks like it's going to, then I should be totally fine.
Yeah.
Ethan Kane says, didn't they give away lifetime DVD rentals to the 1 millionth subscriber? I don't recall if they did that. And I wonder if that were true, is that person still receiving their DVDs, or did they stop? Like, I don't need these anymore.
I still occasionally used to do DVD rentals when they didn't have stuff.
Yeah.
On demand.
I know this is what they wanted, but as soon as they split the two subscriptions up, I canceled my DVDs immediately. Just went to streaming. And back then, there were still people like, streaming will never catch on. There's not enough bandwidth. There's enough bandwidth. Seems to be catching on all right.
No, I don't think people. I think people thought that cutting up the DVD or separating initially was a little too jumping the gun.
Well, I know a lot of people wrote in to shows I was doing saying that streaming service will never catch on. People don't, with data caps and bandwidth as slow as it is. And I'm like, I think that stuff will improve enough. It'll be fine. And guess what? I think it has. All right. You guys ready?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure?
Yes.
You sure? All right. Here we go. Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, April 17th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt, and Veronica Belmont, the bot take master, is in the house.
Hello. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Veronica. We won't be talking about a bot topic this day necessarily, but you are the bot zine author working with bots. So if you ever have a question about bots, email us.
Send them on in.
dailytechnewsshow.com.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from them. We are going to talk about something that is a little unusual in the UK. They are going to make people use a Satnav, as they call it, in their driver's test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, I didn't till today. So we're going to talk about that. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. a court in Rome, this isn't a Vatican thing. As soon as I say a court in Rome, though, for some reason I think of the Pope. I don't know why. A court in Rome has suspended a lower court ruling that would have prevented Uber from using its apps and advertising its services in Italy. Uber will be allowed to continue operating as normal until it has completed an appeal of the ban. So they might still lose, but they don't have to stop downright yet.
Android Police reports that Twitter added support for code generators like Google Authenticator and Authy as two-factor authentication options on Twitter accounts. You'll have to set up two-factor authentication with SMS first, then find a button for Set Up a Code Generator app.
And I didn't tell anybody about it. And if you delete your phone number, it stops working.
Oh, okay.
Kind of weird. Great. Link & Company SVP Elaine Visser says the company will offer a lifetime warranty and free internet connectivity on every vehicle it sells. Link is owned by the same company that owns Volvo and will begin selling its cars in China this year. I like this idea of a car with free lifetime internet.
I would like that as well. That is kind of a fancy deal.
Yeah.
Instagram announced it will let users save bookmarks of Instagram posts into private collections. You can access collections from your profile, and collections are available on iOS and Android as part of the Instagram version 10.16 update.
So Pinterest killer or not Pinterest killer?
Or a stalking tool or not stalking tool.
It is private.
So I can have all my handsome dog collections.
Yes, and no one will know.
Nobody will ever know. So
not a Pinterest killer. Now here are some more top stories. Alphabet has reached an out-of-court settlement with Russia's FAS. It's like their SEC. It's over accusations of market position abuse. Russian search company Yandex raised the complaints against Google, saying it abused its market dominance by requiring certain applications to be installed on Android. Google said, well, you don't have to use our Android. You can go make Android, it's open source. Go put it in. Russia said, no, you got such a dominant position. This is abuse. So Alphabet has agreed that Google will allow rival search engines and apps to be pre-installed on phones running Google's versions of Android in Russia. Plus, Google will allow users to switch the default search engine in their version of Android. A Russian court approved the deal Monday, which will last for 6 years and 9 months.
I think that's probably reasonable.
I go back and forth on this. I totally sympathize with Google's argument of it's an open source operating system. All we're saying is if you want to have the word Google on it, you have to put the Google apps in. If you don't want the word Google on it, then use an open source version of Android that doesn't have our apps on it. But then I also get the argument of, sure, but when 90% of the market is your version of Android, the other versions of Android are essentially not an option for someone. So that is an intense market position. My question is, will this end up affecting anything outside of Russia? Will we see Europe, probably the next likely destination for someone to push for this as well, where there are antitrust allegations against Android being lodged there?
Yeah, and they say, look at this case. This is how it went down there. I mean, that happens quite often.
Yeah. And as a user, I would love for Google to say, yes, you can change the default search engine. Android is already better than iOS, in my opinion, in that respect, that it allows you to change more defaults.
Yeah, that drives me crazy. Stephen Wang and a team of researchers at the University of Nottingham have developed a machine learning algorithm that can predict your likelihood of having a heart attack or stroke, as well as any doctor. The algorithm used 295,000 records to learn predictive models, then tested and refined its accuracy in a further 83,000 plus records. The algorithm results significantly outperformed the AAA and AHA guidelines, ranging from 74.5 to 76.4% accuracy, and beat the existing guidelines by 7.6%, while raising 1.6% fewer false alarms. It even identified risk factors not listed in existing guidelines.
So it's not a bot, but it's a little artificial intelligence out there, and this is a real benefit of using machine learning to diagnose in a preventative way, saying you are at a higher risk for a heart attack based on looking at people who have had heart disease and deciding like, okay, these are the things that seem to indicate that. This is the promise of it, is that these machines will be better at figuring this stuff out because they just need to look at the data.
Yeah, and being able to go through so much data so quickly, and being able to change its findings based on things it learns is super valuable.
And seeing those patterns that we couldn't see as humans, even as good at pattern recognition as we are, that's pretty impressive. So I think this is a fairly significant advance, and one that I want to take advantage of. I want to put my records through this machine and be like,
do you really want to know? I mean, unless they tell you how to like prevent this stuff, and
that's
and
the
like,
idea.
okay, yeah,
right. No, exactly. If it that would be the next step too, is to say, okay, I know what the guidelines are to prevent heart disease. Now that you've told me whether I'm at risk, I mean, some of those risk indicators can be changed. Like, you're not exercising enough. Okay, well, I'll need to exercise more. But what else? What diet changes can I make? All of that sort of thing. Analysts for Pacific Crest Securities wrote to investors Sunday that Apple may be having trouble with its new fingerprint sensor for the next iPhone. The sensor is meant to be integrated, at least this is the supposition. Apple hasn't confirmed any of this, but the idea is that it would be integrated into a screen so that there's no physical button disrupting what is expected to be an almost bezel-less front. Pacific Crest says, here's their quote, "At this point, we do not believe Apple's optical fingerprint module provider has firm orders for production." So this is supply chain information. They're saying, we talked to the manufacturer. They don't have a firm order. That leads the analysts to believe that Apple does not have functionality of the optical fingerprint sensor ready. Otherwise, they would have a firm order. Additionally, Pacific Crest says, we believe Apple has evaluated Synaptics optical fingerprint solution, but that it has not been qualified.
No button, not even a single button.
Well, okay, so the idea would be that you wouldn't miss it because you'd have the haptic feedback like you have now, because the one on the iPhone 7s isn't actually,
how am I going to know where to find
it? The iPhone 7 is not actually a button, but it would be virtual. So it would show up on the screen like it does on Android when you need it, but it would feel like a button and have the fingerprint sensor.
It would feel like a button when you press it, but if you're trying to find it on the phone, it's not going to signal. You won't have a divot or anything to tell you where the button is.
So you'd have to look, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's some situation, I don't know. I'm already starting to get bearish on Apple decisions on something we haven't even seen or learned anything about.
I know. Well, and I love that you're taking this as good news. Like, good. I hope this means they keep a finger. But then some people are saying
stop invading.
They wouldn't have the fingerprint sensor at all in that case, and use
some kind of
3D recognition or something.
Well, if the whole screen can sense your fingerprint and know what it is and be able to,
I don't think that's an option either, unfortunately. That's an even bigger fingerprint sensor. Just make the whole thing a sensor.
Just do that, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound expensive. I don't know. This is a reliable supply chain report, and maybe it just means that Apple is holding off on ordering that sensor until they nail down a few things, and it'll all turn out fine. But you've seen a lot of scuttlebutt out there that the iPhone edition or 10th anniversary edition or whatever it ends up being called might be delayed too, and this would explain those rumors as well.
Well, moving on, after reviewing the alleged NSA hacking tools leaked last week, Microsoft says all the vulnerabilities are patched in supported versions of Windows. That, of course, means the vulnerabilities that target Windows XP or Vista may not be, as Microsoft no longer supports those versions of Windows. The Verge's Tom Warren notes that Microsoft delayed its February patch release, and March's release included fixes for some of the leaked exploits.
So it really looks like somebody, whether it's the people who leaked these tools or whether it's the NSA getting wind of it ahead of time, somebody tipped Microsoft off in February about these exploits. Microsoft scrambled, canceled their February patch, which is unheard of, and put all of those or most of those fixes in the March patch ahead of these tools being leaked. There's lots of crazy conspiracy theories about that, but the good news is that Microsoft was able to fix these before they were released.
And of course, the depressing news is that if you're still using Windows XP or Vista, not going to help you out.
Yeah, I mean, XP and Vista, they said, we're not doing security patches for them anymore. You're on your own. So this is an unusual situation where it's very public which vulnerabilities actually exist. But man, there's so many other vulnerabilities for XP out there that are also unpatched. I mean, at a certain point, you just don't patch older operating systems anymore. There's no patches for Windows 98 anymore either.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like some of these have taken longer to move on from, though.
Yeah, well, Vista maybe not so much, but Windows 7 is going to be the interesting one. People are still using Windows XP. That one, come on, it was, that's 17 years old now. But Windows 7 has a lot of devotees in the enterprise. So I'm curious how long it's going to take for them to finally
hold
stop
on to that.
Yeah, supporting that. Finally, Netflix added 1.42 million domestic subscribers and 3.53 million international subscribers in its last quarter. And unfortunately, as good as that might sound to you, it missed Netflix's own and Wall Street's expectations of 1.5 million, so 1.42 to 1.5, and 3.7 million international to 3.53 is what they actually got. It did beat expectations on the earnings side of 37 cents a share. They ended up with 40 cents a share, and Netflix met expectations of 2.64 billion in revenue. Netflix says it expects 600,000 domestic subscribers and 2.6 million international subscribers in the second quarter, which would bring it up over that 100 million subscriber mark, and Netflix even thinks they'll hit that mark this weekend.
Wow. Do you get a prize?
I wish, right? We were talking about that before the show. Ethan Kane in our chat room was like, didn't they give the millionth subscriber like free DVDs for life or something? The 100 millionth subscriber ought to get something.
I can't imagine anything I would want less than free DVDs for life.
I know at this point, right? So what would be the equivalent of it now? Would you want to like get written into Stranger Things?
No, I would just take free Netflix for life.
Just free Netflix for life. Never have to pay for it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd be okay with that.
It'd be easy enough to do.
They could probably give that to like 100,000 people and it wouldn't affect them that much. And it wouldn't even affect.
So you got to give it to one at that point.
At least one. Yeah.
The other side of this story is that Netflix had a better than expected subscriber growth last quarter, and that shot their stock up, and everybody's panics over Netflix subscriber growth these days. It didn't miss by a lot, but it did miss, and so now the inevitable questions will be raised again. Can Netflix continue its growth? Can it afford the billions of dollars it's spending on original content? Is it really going to pay off? I've started to see Netflix being compared to Amazon as a low margin company that just keeps investing all of its money in the future. And
they're doing a great job overall.
Well, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in less than 5 minutes, you can subscribe to our other show. It's kind of like a pairing, like an appetizer of daily tech headlines in the morning, and then a meaty discussion on Daily Tech News Show in the afternoon. That other show is Daily Tech Headlines, dailytechheadlines.com. So the UK's Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency has confirmed that starting December 4th, drivers will need to demonstrate the ability to follow a navigation device as part of the driving test. Now, you won't need to bring your own device. In fact, you have to use the one that they provide in the test car. You're not getting tested on setting it up either. The tester, the examiner, will set it up for you. And it won't matter if you go the wrong way. This is another part of this, Veronica. If it tells you to turn right and you turn left, you won't fail your test. You won't get dinged. You'll only get dinged if you make a fault while doing it. So if the nav device says turn right and you go left, as long as you signal to turn left and make the left turn safely, you're fine. What they're trying to do is see how drivers, and I quote, manage and prioritize distractions, which may include directions from a Satnav.
To me, this makes perfect and obvious sense. I mean, we are well beyond the point where we don't have to think about things like we have to think about things like GPS or Satnav, as they call it. Connected devices in your car, giant video screens in the center console, like on the Tesla, like potentially popping up information all the time.
Yeah.
Even something as easy as changing the radio station can cause people to be distracted enough to cause an accident. I know it has happened to me in my life. The only accident I ever caused was because I was changing the radio and didn't see a light change, and that was on me. And I was 16, but still, you need to learn these rules about how to handle an automobile, and you should always be paying attention. But sometimes things are going to pop up that make you distracted.
Now, this brings up all the old chestnuts, right? Like, oh, so now you're going to test me by having babies in the back and kids who are yelling at me and throwing
Maybe
food.
They should.
And I'm like, okay, fair enough. You can't test for every distraction, but does that mean you shouldn't test for any distractions? At first, when I saw this story, I thought this was amusing, and I could see where people would think it's stupid. But then when I realized, okay, they're not testing your ability to follow the nav. they're trying to introduce a bit of the normal testing behavior without endangering you, right? So yeah, having someone in the back while you're taking your driver's test, like throwing stuff at you, is probably not a good idea. But having a Satnav that you have to pay attention to is a good and legal way to say, okay, let's have a more natural test environment. Let's put some distractions in here that you would normally encounter while you're driving.
And I think it's good too, because they don't fault you for not following the navigation perfectly, because oftentimes something that does happen to a lot of people is if they miss a turn with the sat nav, they get flustered and they do stupid things to try to get back on the path. But it's much smarter to just, continue driving safely. The sat nav will figure out what you're supposed to be doing and reroute you. So it's not a big deal. It's not something to like freak out over. But I think a lot of people do get a little like, oh, I got to fix it. I got to do something stupid to get back on the path that it told me to do.
No, this is good. I think in this world where we have way more distractions in the car because of phones in particular than we've ever had before, you want to introduce a little bit of that in the test. So I've actually done a flip on this since this morning when I first saw it and thought it was silly, to thinking it's maybe actually kind of genius, like a good way of doing it. And maybe they should make you skip a song in a playlist while you're driving too, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should be tested every 10 years, frankly.
I don't know about that now that
that's an unpopular opinion.
Yeah,
exactly. I think that's exactly why.
Call me in 10 years, Belmont. Let me know how you feel then.
We'll have autonomous vehicles. I'll have my robotic lift picking me up. We won't need to think about this in 10 years, hopefully.
When I get to the point where I don't feel comfortable driving anymore, I want autonomous cars to be ready to take over. Absolutely.
I mean, that is a huge, this is off topic, but that is a huge benefit for accessibility, like being able to have, not only autonomous vehicles, but just regular Lyft and Uber cars around that can get people where they need to go. They really need to fix some of their issues with like drivers not accepting guide dogs. I know they've put rules in place for that kind of stuff, or, having more vehicles available for wheelchair users. But I think they're trying to make an effort in that area.
Yeah, and this sort of thing can open up the world in a way that I don't think people understand.
An unbelievable difference in people's lives.
Especially, and I know many of you just drive every day, and so you're like, oh, it'd be nice. It would be nice. It could mean the difference between actually getting things done and not to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because you when you can't get around on your own, you have to plan a lot more. And if suddenly you have the same convenience that people who have sight and are allowed to drive have, you can just go do things anytime you want.
To a way lesser extent, like when I broke my wrist and ankle and I couldn't drive, and I, even for several months, I mean, I don't know what I would have done without having those kinds of services to get me around.
And that's just a taste, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just sort of like a really small taste of what other people go through every single day of their lives.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. Keep these topics coming. Submit your stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Got a few messages to get to today. First of all, from A. Carl Cornell. Hi, Roger. Oh, and Tom, too.
Roger's got a fan.
In episode 3007, in the context of Microsoft's EDU announcement that they've scheduled upcoming, you talked about Microsoft wanting to get people using their products as early as possible. I work at Stanford, and we are one of the many universities using Office 365, including for students. The Office 365 license gives everyone rights to install Office on computers, tablets, and smartphones, but once you graduate, those rights eventually expire. With Office 365, you are periodically asked to revalidate your rights, typically by logging in through your institution. The solution is to search for your institution's software download store. This might be an outside company, but your institution probably has a way to get free or highly discounted Microsoft software that will not expire when you graduate. It's typically just one license per student, but it's still worth the price. The easiest way to get more information is to do a web search for your institution's name, followed by the word Microsoft, and then look through the links, not just the first couple of results for one that looks like it's correct. But good tip there, Carl. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I just installed some software and I found out that I have to renew the license every year for $99. I was like, what?
Well, I mean, that's kind of close to what Office is. So is it that important? of a
Well,
piece of software?
Not as important as Office,
Okay.
for sure.
Open Office doesn't require you to pay anything.
That's true. It's also
Nor does
terrible.
LibreOffice.
Joe from DC writes, I came back to DC and saw the Postmates robot on 14th Street Northwest near where I live, crossing a street with quite a few pedestrians. It was interesting to see how people seemed to move out of its way as it made its way across the street. I'm not sure if people have gotten used to it on 14th Street Northwest, as I just came back to DC after a month away, but there didn't seem to be as much reaction to it as I would have expected. Of course, I had to stop and take a picture with my phone. I thought I would share a picture on a robot on break with its handler, Joe in DC.
And we'll have it in the video version, of course, a link to it in the show notes for you guys on audio. But it is kind of funny because you see one person looking at the robot in his picture, and then everyone else on the street doesn't even seem to know it's there. It's just, it's funny that these are the Star robots from the Estonian company that are out now just rolling around. And it is crazy how A, quickly people get used to this sort of thing. And B, people just sort of realize, well, if it's there, it must be normal.
Must be fine. Must be normal.
I'm not going to react to it.
This is my life now.
Yeah, exactly. Bill Burlingame in Huntsville, Alabama, wrote in with the description of the choices that they have in Huntsville. He says he's lucky enough to have a few different choices of cable services. For instance, he has Comcast, but there was a company called WOW came to his door. The problem, he says, is the amount of work involved for me to change providers. I have static addresses set up for many devices, a Silicon Dust HD home run cable card unit, 9 IP security cameras, HTPC, home theater PC. I've built up my system in a piecemeal fashion going back to the CompuServe dial-up days. I have switches feeding into other switches, and I recently took pictures and wrote a Word document about what I have and shared it with my kids in case something should happen to me. I've lived in the house since 1980. The other problem, a 2-year contract with a stiff early cancellation fee. At my age, 81, it's risky to buy green bananas. So he's not going to do that. But yeah, I mean, both the idea of like 2 years is too long when you're Bill's age. I think Bill's going to last a long time. He seems to be super sharp. We hear from him quite often, and I'm appreciative of that. But also this idea of like, yeah, if you have a complex setup that relies on IP addresses, it's not that you can't change it, but the idea of having to change it just might make you go, you know what, I don't want to mess with it.
Rich writes in and says, loved the discussion on Ryzen from Friday. For something like a CPU architecture, it's rare to get a lived-in review perspective. The other exciting thing about Ryzen is that it marks a return of AMD as being competitive in the data center. Their Naples platform is competitive with Intel at all but the very high end, with up to 64 cores, 128 threads, and most importantly, 128 PCIe lanes for I/O in a typical 2-socket server. At their peak in the mid-2000s, AMD had 10% of the server market and was the backbone of many supercomputers. I'm hoping they bring some much-needed competition to the space.
Well, and when I was talking to Lloyd on Friday about this, you know, I was saying, well, is this going to be enough, or do they need to jump in the Internet of Things? You know, this could be the future, is for them to capture that side of the market where you
Wait,
will
who did
need
you have
data
on?
center chips. Lloyd Case.
Oh, I haven't seen Lloyd in a long time. He's a good guy.
Yeah, you should come on Friday.
Maybe I will. Is he on every Friday?
No, he's not on every Friday. You should come on last Friday. You'll need a time machine, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have Lloyd back on. Maybe we'll try to get him on a Monday and talk about this stuff. But yeah, Lloyd's great, and we had a good conversation about this. But yeah, maybe data center is definitely the future. Thank you, Rich. And thank you, Veronica Belmont. Botzine is the thing that I just subscribed to finally, because I was making you email them and then I realized, you know, that's silly. We can
automate this process.
Emailed to me like a bot. So I subscribed just in time to get today's issue, which has all kinds of cool things in it, like, you know, fantasizing about voice assistants as your friends or more.
Or lovers.
Yeah. Friends with
lovers.
And lots of other stuff. How do people find the Botzine and subscribe?
You can head to botzine.org.
That's all you got to do.
Just plug in your email address and I will send you a newsletter every week.
What else is going on that you want to tell folks about?
Let's see. I don't know, Tom. I never prepare for this segment. You can check out the project that I work on day to day at growbot.io, and you can listen to Sword Laser at swordandlaser.com.
You know, Sword and Laser just put out a new book. It's a sci-fi book about a time traveler called Pilot X. It's on the Sword and Laser imprint.
Getting rave reviews.
Yeah, so you could check that out. I don't know, some author, some newbie author, but go check that out. Swordandlaser.com. Thanks to everybody who gives a little value back to this show for the value they get from the show, including Sloan Ozan, Dean Lockwood, Brad Kimpton, and the list goes on. You all are special people, and we could not do this show if it weren't for all of you supporting us. So thank you for putting your faith in the show and keeping us going for years now. You guys are the best. Patreon.com/DTNS. If you haven't joined them yet, do so today. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with the return of Patrick Beja. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
All right. What do we call this?
A show.
A show. A show for the ages.
You must be at least this tech savvy to drive.
That's funny.
Followed by mother-in-law backseating driving test.
Okay.
Dr. Bot. Bezel feed.
Oh, right, because the AI. Got it.
Microsoft. There wasn't a lot. In fact, there's only 7 or 9.
Yeah.
Microsoft hacked the NSA hack of Microsoft. Welcoming the driving test to 2005. Recalculating UK driving tests. DMV is to GPS and NSA is to MST. MST.
Microsoft.
Her botzine. That was the last one by Ethan Kane. Her botzine.
You must be at least this tech savvy to drive.
Yeah, I liked that one. That's the one I clicked on.
I already voted for that.
It's very British.
What is?
I would say because, at least for the black taxi cabs, don't they have to pass a really rigorous test of the streets of London? They have to memorize it.
Yes.
And I'm just saying, they said a very they. What you're giving me a very skeptical
I am. I'm a little skeptical if this story is particularly British for that reason.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
I'm not sure.
Well, it's okay. You're not my customers.
You're not my clients. I don't have to make you happy. Well, I get what you're saying about the London cab thing, but the reason I'm skeptical is because you don't have to follow the directions. If they were testing you on your ability, then it would be closer to me. You must be at least this tech savvy to drive?
Sounds good.
Yep. And they also have different ratings for automatics and sticks.
Oh, yeah, we don't do that, do we?
No.
You could drive a stick with by taking your test with an automatic here.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like a smart idea.
It doesn't matter. It's all going away.
Yeah, it's exactly.
I really just want to just get in a car and have it drive so I can do something else like snooze.
Man, Carboni's looking jacked these days.
Wait, what? Where did that come from?
Yeah, Twitter.
Oh.
Carboni got muscles.
Oh, I need to meet up with him. He lives like 5 minutes away from me.
Oh, that's fine.
Anthony Carboni.
Oh, Carboni got jacked up? Nice. Good man.
Like he's all buffed kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's just from holding that mic up all weekend for Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta go to work.
All right.
See you guys later.
Bye.
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 Is there another picture of him? I'm trying to see what did he flex or something in the window?
Yeah, I don't know what she was looking at.
I don't see anything that. I mean, not to say that he's out of shape or anything, but he's always been He's always been a very fit guy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Yeah, I need to meet up with him.
Yeah, Brian Tong lives up around Your
I don't care about
neck of
it.
the woods too. Oh, please, that's not nice.
Actually, the thing is, I actually never worked with Brian Tong. I only know him through you.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forget who knows who.
It's like the way people used to assume, or maybe they still do, that Veronica came from Tech TV.
From Tech TV, where she did not. But she worked with enough of us later that it almost feels like it.
The only one I really like, who do I keep in touch with back at CNET?
Back at CNET? Who do you keep?
Yeah, like from that I knew from working at CNET, and
that's still there. I don't know.
No, just like keeping in touch, just like on a regular, friendly basis. Like people, like people, like who do I know? Like I know you from Tech TV, and and Eileen, I still keep up. You and Patrick, Josh, to very
Molly Wood was for me. I know that's not somebody you worked with there, but I still keep in touch with Molly,
Veronica. Veronica's probably the only one for me.
But you kind of knew her more for.
See.
In touch with
Michael Chang is the only other one because I used to get confused with him.
Oh. Yeah, and then there's Roger Cheng, which I don't think you've ever worked with.
I've never met him, but people for the longest time mistook me. It's like, all right, sure. They would mistake
it's an E, not an A. That one's understandable though; they're very close.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, and then most of the other stuff is from DLTV or Rev3. Like, I still keep up with Annie. Still keep up with crap. I don't even remember her name. Serafina. so bad. Serafina. Occasionally Jackie. I know Gabe contacted me about something for NVIDIA if I wanted to come up. Well, I have to tell him I can't because I need to go to the hospital again Wednesday for another test. Same thing as today. I'll be around.
I already talked about all the TV shows.
Yeah, I gotta catch up on Doctor Who. I missed out on the last one because it's on Amazon, but I didn't want to buy it. Even though they let you watch all the previous stuff free, I guess that was one of the things they were doing. And I've been watching a lot of the Amazon pilots.
Can watch. Wait, you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, though, right? So
yeah.
When you say free,
I can watch as part of the Prime subscription.
Right. Yeah.
Except
they have the back catalog of Doctor Who, but not the current seasons.
Exactly.
Yep.
I just started on watching their pilot of The Legend of Master Legend, which is really interesting. Master Legend is a real-life superhero. RLSH, it's kind of a thing in certain parts of the country, where people kind of act like superheroes. Like, they actually dress up and everything.
Oh, so it's like a documentary series?
So there was a bunch of documentaries made about that entire movement over the past 8 years. And he's been a prominent feature because he's like one of the more well-known characters. But Amazon commissioned a pilot based on him. That one guy, the real life guy.
So is he playing himself, or
no?
Someone
it's not.
else
but it's just based on his story. Except that it takes place in an entirely different city, Vegas, instead of the actual guy lives out somewhere in Florida, but this one takes place in Vegas. So I'm watching it because I'm like really fascinated because it's very circular in a way, content wise or plot wise.
Well, that's interesting.
Oh, that dove. Why do you coo? Marilyn McCoo.
What? Marilyn
No, there's a
McCoo.
dove right outside my window. It won't shut up. It's very annoying.
Ah, I see.
You know, I didn't realize, and I just kind of assumed that doves are just all over the place, or pigeons. But they are the descendants of the birds that were brought over by early colonialists.
Oh, you mean the pigeons are not native to North America?
Yeah, well, I'm sure some form of pigeon or dove, but not the ones we see in cities. Those were brought over.
Huh. They're European invaders, much like ourselves.
And honeybees, and earthworms, and horses.
Well, not all of us are European, I guess, but we're invaders from outside the continent.
I'm not an invader. I'm just leveraging the invasion.
You're still invading.
Am I? I'm just taking the spot of it. Oh, it'll get very complicated.
Leveraging the invasion.
Strike It Rich asks in the chat room, is the dove crying? And I don't know. Isn't that what people just call when
What does it sound like when doves cry?
It goes, coo, coo.
Is that right?
Coo. It's like, I just want to punch it. I mean, it's probably not good luck to punch a dove, right? Isn't that a bad thing?
No.
Or is that just an albatross you're not supposed to mess with?
Albatross.
Or goonie birds, as the old salted sailors used
Goonie
to
birds
say.
are albatrosses? I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
because they're really ungainly on land.
Huh.
If you ever see them, they just kind of they look like they're drunk a little bit, just because they're just they're
Goonie.
well, they're designed to glide for very long distances, and that doesn't make for the best two-legged walking profile.
I see.
It's a goonie bird, right? Make sure goonie bird. Right on that. Yep. Another term for an albatross of the North Pacific.
Albatross.
Ooh, I forgot they have eyeliner. These birds have guy liner. It's weird. Or bird liner, I guess.
Bird liner, yeah. I mean, I guess they're guys.
Yeah, they're kind of goofy looking. They look very non-threatening. Like very non-threatening animals. I think koala bears are probably like the only other. Well, maybe a wombat. Wombats look pretty non-threatening too. They just look like koala bears that are on the ground and slightly elongated with smaller ears and a broader head. So basically not like a koala at all.
Netflix has had its earnings call now, and The Verge says with the headline, Netflix accuses its users of watching 500 million hours of Adam Sandler films.
He is the one thing that rolled out of SNL in the 90s that I think was not such the best thing.
I don't know. I like some Adam Sandler stuff. I think it gets an undeserved bad rap, but
I can't think of. I'm trying to think of any movie I willingly sat through of his. I even tried watching The Wedding Singer, and I like.
Oh yeah, The Wedding Singer's good. You didn't like it?
No. Then he did Little Nicky, and I didn't understand the point of that one. Like Tim Farley. What's his name? Not Tim. What's his name?
Who is an actor you like?
From SNL?
Yeah, sure, from SNL.
Phil Hartman.
Rest in peace.
Yeah,
Phil Hartman.
Bill Murray is the top.
Bill Murray has become a national treasure. I think that's awesome because I feel like Bill Murray got a bad rap back in the Stripes days.
Did he? I knew Stripes was
there were lots of people who liked it, but it was a lot of people looked down on it. Oh, he makes those dumb humor movies, and he kind of proved them all wrong by saying, yeah, I can make funny movies or I can make real serious movies.
Well, the one I thought that I always liked a lot outside of like Ghostbusters was great, but it was also great because it was an ensemble comedic cast. But it was what was it? Not Gopher Day, Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
That was really good. Like, it was, she
Yeah.
did a really good range. I was really impressed.
And it was a well done movie beyond him,
Yes.
which helps too, right? Like an actor like Bill Murray can't save Garfield. Let's put it that way.
No, but he did a great voice, though. He did a great voice. This is another movie he got panned for, but I still love, and I don't know, I'm just a freak, I guess. But is Life Aquatic, that
Oh yeah,
Wes Anderson? I was going to say Wes Craven, Wes Anderson movie. I really love that movie, and everyone pans it, and I think it's one of those.
I've heard some people say they like that movie. Who pans it?
Well, it's always considered to be one of the less.
Well, yeah. I mean, part of that I wonder is that it was an earlier Wes Anderson movie, and so later Wes Anderson movies were better because Wes Anderson just
what was the
you
one
get better as you do things longer, and so that doesn't mean Life Aquatic's bad though.
Let me see. Wait. What was the what was the Gene Hackman one? That second one, the Tenenbaums.
Oh yeah, Royal Tenenbaums.
I actually thought Life Aquatic was, at least in my mind, a lot funnier, like dry, like really dry humor than Royal Tenenbaums. I like both movies.
Pretty damn good though. Yeah.
I did not like the Darjeeling Express?
Oh yeah, I like that one fine. I didn't like it as much as the others though. You're right.
It didn't have the same. Although I like Moonlight Kingdom.
Moonlight Kingdom's good, and Hotel Budapest.
Right? I haven't seen that one.
Right?
That's the latest one, right? I haven't seen that one.
I don't know if it's the latest or the one before the latest, but yeah.
The Lost in Translation,
That's not Wes Anderson. We're shifting to other Bill Murray movies now.
Yeah. No, BioCow brought that up in the chat room, Lost in Translation, as a good Bill Murray.
I love that movie. It does not seem to wear as well for me with age. When we rewatched it before we went to Japan last year, and there were parts that I used to think were genius that I'm like, well, okay, maybe not as genius as I thought, but it just has such a great mood to it. And I think Bill Murray's and Scarlett Johansson's performances both are fantastic.
I think they were really good. I thought they were fantastic in it. The problem I have with that movie is has a great mood, great feeling to it, but it really didn't have a story.
Yeah. I don't necessarily. That's not a problem for me. If it's got enough of a through line, I don't need a strong plot. And it's funny. Like I think a lot about the current situation of people telling each other they're wrong for not liking the same things. And I've been thinking recently, like I wonder if some of the people who I disagree with on, let's say, a movie or TV show are people who value plot over other things, where I like a good plot, and I think that makes a better movie when you have a strong plot, but it isn't essential. And I think some people, if you don't have a strong plot, they're like, forget it. It's a bad movie. And that's fine. It's bad for them, but that doesn't make it a bad movie.
To me,
it's like going to a restaurant and saying, I only like chicken, and I'm only going to judge this restaurant on its chicken. And someone else is like, you know what? As long as the food's okay, I'm going to judge it on the decor. And then they both have a different, have a different opinion on the restaurant, right? Which is fine.
And it's weird because I really enjoy parts of that movie. Like there's bits of it, and that was the time when I was there, and I was like the odd man out because I didn't understand anything that was going on. It had to be filtered for me.
Yeah,
but it felt like it could have been the movie that you could have had the same movie in half the time. Like
well, again, if you're cutting it down to story, you're totally right.
Yeah, I mean it's for me I grade on all these things.
Well, and I think that's fair. I think what the conversation has to shift for the things that are important for me are these, and this didn't meet those needs. Versus that's a bad movie. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know that's shorter and easier to say. And that was fine when we all sort of understood like, oh, when he says that's a bad movie, he means I think it's a bad movie. But lately the conversations in public have turned to that's a bad movie, period, objectively speaking. And if you disagree, you're wrong. And I'm like, oh, come on. We're not talking about physics here. We're talking about opinions.
I mean, that's the thing I have. Like Pacific Rim, I think is just kind of a meh movie, but everyone loves it.
I loved it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And,
like
and
for
I don't
me,
mind. I don't mind that you think it was meh. Like I can totally understand that.
do you?
It's all about your experience. Like stories, books, TV shows, movies. There's a bell curve of objectivity where like on one end, all of us can agree they're good. On one end, all of us can agree they're bad, but most of them aren't on those ends. Most of them are in the middle. And in the middle, it's all what you bring to it, what you expect, and what you enjoy. And that's different for every person.
And it's, I have movies that like are my guilty pleasures because I enjoy them, even though they're not the most cerebral or like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I love Hell Comes to Frogtown, right? It's stuff like that, like really schlocky movies that I really enjoy. But I also like some incredibly. Have you ever seen World Under a Night? World at Night. It's an anthology movie. I'm trying to remember the World at Night. The World at Night.
Is it Jim Jarmusch? It's the movie I have seen it.
Maybe The World at Night or Night. I'm trying to remember the
Night on Earth.
Yes, that's it.
Jim Jarmusch. Yes, I have seen that. Yeah,
I love that movie. I love it because it's what I find so fascinating is it's such a great snapshot of people in the same profession or doing the same ones, but just a vastly interesting and incredibly compelling like viewscape on each of those people. And I think it's funny. It goes from funny to sad to just run of the mill, generic to frightening and to heartwarming. So it's really good. I
like that too. But if someone said, "Oh, I hated that movie," they wouldn't be wrong.
And I would
They're
punch
right.
them. I would punch them.
No, you wouldn't punch them. You would say, "That's fine. That's your opinion."
To borrow a phrase from a friend of mine, I would punch them through the internet.
No, stop. That's the problem. You're part of the problem now.
These hammers
that
of justice.
Used to be funny in the 90s. It's not funny anymore.
I disagree with you.
That's okay. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We're going to head out of here now. I hope you have a lovely afternoon or not. Maybe you don't want a lovely afternoon. That's fine. We'll talk to you later.